أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين شفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين وأصحابه المنتجبين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى قيام يوم الدين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So the Quran emphasizes the divine attributes of God, that He is most perfect. And that perfection and infallibility requires fullness of knowledge and fullness of control and the right to direct human life accordingly. And Quran further on says that the reason why God imposes upon us duties is in order for Him to bring the best out in us. The Quran also reminds us that this life is a fleeting moment. It's an illusory life. We have to make the most through this opportunity of life. Neither life nor death are in our hands, Quran says, nor gain or loss. These are arbitrarily within our hands. In the realest sense, they are within the hands of God. But more than anything else, what God says to us in the Quran is that this life is not your abode. You come from somewhere else. You are going back somewhere beyond this, which is far more enduring, far more permanent. And that is a place for which you need to work whilst in this world. No soul shall die before its appointed time. And when God wishes to seize a soul, nobody can keep them here. We further understand that each one of us has come here with a task. We have made certain pacts when we read the Quran. We have come here with certain aptitudes. We need to accomplish a certain task for the broader humanity. Within ourselves though, our task is to find our God in whatever circumstances God keeps us in. God very simply puts it in the Quran that if you were to die, you will come back to God. End of story. Isn't that better for you? If you were to lose something, God will give you a handsome reward in return for it. Isn't that better for you? God consoles us. He encourages us. He knows that we have forgotten in this life what it's all about. So He constantly and consistently puts reminders. Just think about all of these things, God says. This life is not the end, the beginning and the end of your existence. You are far greater than this. Now, the one thing God insists on in the Quran is His unity. God will talk about creatures that have superhuman qualities within the Quran. He says to Iblis, "Astakbarta am kunta min al-aalin." Iblis, are you behaving in pride or are you of the lofty ones? I mean, that's one of the interpretations. So that possibly shows that there are certain lofty ones that are exempted from prostration to Adam. But in all of this, if you read the Quran consistently, when God talks about the angels having variety of powers and ability, God says, it is ultimately and inevitably, it's just me. La hawl wa la quwwa illa billah. There is no strength, there is no might save by God. There is no full knowledge save with God. There is no full control save with God. God's decisions are most perfect. That's all. Direct yourselves to God only. Now, Ibrahim, as I embark upon this talk, says to his people, whatever you want to do to me, you can't do anything to me unless God wills it. So it is not your deities and your gods who are going to do any harm to me. The harm will only come to me if God so wills. Harut and Marut, the two angels who went and taught magic or sorcery to the people after at some point in the story, in the verse that talks about Sulaiman. They said to the people, don't learn this from us. This is bad for you, but use it for a good end and good purpose. Now the Quran says, they learned this knowledge and they caused the separation of man from his wife. But the Quran again makes this particular thing very clear, that they could not do any harm save by the consent of God. So harm comes through the consent of God for a particular reason. Good comes from God with a particular reason. God does not want us to give any authority point blank to anybody other than God. Finish. It's your story with your God. On the day of Qiyamah, Allah is saying, leave me and what I have created alone. Finish. God is saying, the intercession of Malakul Muqarrab will not avail in the least unless God wants otherwise. God is saying, the authority is mine. Finish. This is what every prophet has taught. This is what every imam has taught. Now, the reason why God sent these beautiful prophets and these wonderful vicegerents of the prophets or the imams was that they can direct us to God through their virtuous, moral, and God-centered conduct. We were not supposed to get stuck with the prophets or the imams. They were a means for us to arrive at God. That's it, nothing else. It's our story with God. That's what God is saying. I often say to my Christian brothers that, look, Nabi Isa salamullah alayhi made his way to his God. The end is God, not Nabi Isa salamullah alayhi. We can't get stuck on Nabi Isa. He is not the point of salvation or damnation. It is your relationship with God that marks salvation or damnation, nothing else. It is your story with God. Then I turn towards our faith and we say, well, haven't we done the same thing that the Christians have done with Isa? Haven't we done with the Blessed Prophet and his family? All those beautiful attributes of God that the Christians give to Nabi Isa, we give to the Prophet Muhammad and his family. And the Quran amazingly gives a different story altogether. They were humble to the core. God, in fact, put them in a disadvantaged position so that they can show the gems of their humanity and godliness. Do you know this? People like us might be put in a more advantageous position so that the test of life is easier for us. But the great Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is placed in the most disadvantaged position. I will not give you any knowledge of what's going to happen beyond this decision of yours. Now take the decision and show me your mettle, O Muhammad. Can you see this? And that is why he is the creme de la creme example for humanity to lead by. He was hungry, he was thirsty, he had so many enemies, he didn't have any helpers, he did not have any ilmul ghaib, he did not have any wilāya takwīniyya, nothing, and he still made it. Subhanallah, he is a role model. These discussions are geared around dispelling these sort of attributions to the Prophet and his family, whereby we are belittling their exemplary nature and character. Now, let's take it up from yesterday as we go into today's talk. Imam Rada knew that the date was poisoned. So we put an objection. If he knew the date was poisoned, why did he eat it? So the convoluted response is, well, they had to behave in a manner that an ordinary person would behave. So he had to eat it. That's the example and justification that's given. So he ate a poisonous date because no ordinary man could know what he knew. So now let us say one of us has a dream that tomorrow the Abbasid Caliph will call you. He will offer you a date. He will offer you a tray of dates. And the first 4 or 5 on top will be poisoned. Now we wake up in the morning and suddenly the Abbasid Caliph calls us. We said, strange, I had this dream. Then we go there and the tray that we saw in the dream arrives. And we see the same number of dates and we see 5 dates placed on the top that we are supposed to eat. Now by this time we have become sure that these dates are poisoned. What does Sharia tell us to do? Does the Sharia tell us, as the Quran says, لا تلقوا بأيديكم إلى التهلكة, do not cause your destruction by your own hands. لا تقتلوا أنفسكم, do not kill yourselves. Is the Sharia telling us to eat that date or to make an excuse and not eat that date or pick another date? What is the Sharia telling us? And if we were to eat it, and God says, well, I gave you the knowledge via a dream that this is poisonous, why did you eat it? Do you think God can rightfully hold us accountable? Or should we say to God, well, I had special knowledge that nobody else had, and I was supposed to act in accordance with everybody else? Well, God said, well, I gave you that knowledge so that you could avoid that date in the first instance. Does that sound reasonable? But according to this logic, we are supposed to pick the poisonous date and eat it because Imam Radha is our role model. Can you see the convoluted thinking that is involved here? It just doesn't make sense. When we attribute falsities, then we have to conjure up lengthy stories and convoluted explanations to make it justifiable. You look at our religion, everywhere you will find convoluted stories when it comes to justifying God-like attributes for other than God, especially the Prophet and his family. The same thing is there. Go and examine the literature. Now, you might not see this literature firsthand, but the scholars who are informing us, their minds are informed by this literature. So they may not talk about this example, but with everything else that they talk about, it's influenced by this very outlook. Can you see this? So now we come to that verse. I need to clarify this verse about the ambiguous knowledge. Now, the amazing double standards that we have. It's amazing. Think about this. Allah reveals a book from which are verses that are clear. They are the mother of the book. We need to explain away what mother of the book is. And others are ambiguous. None follows the ambiguous verses save the corrupt at heart in order to seek discord. No one knows the true interpretation of the ambiguous verses except for Allah. Yes? There is a pause here in the verse. Ayatullah Tabatabai and others will say there is a pause. Go and read Ayatullah Tabatabai. Go and read him. If you don't want to read Ayatullah Tabatabai, then read the rest of the verse. وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ يَقُولُونَ. And the people steeped in knowledge, rooted in knowledge, they say, آمَنَّا بِهِ, we believe in it. كُلٌّ مِّنْ عَنْدِ رَبِّنَا. All of it is from our God. So the Rasikhuna fil ilm actually saying, we don't understand it, but we believe it is from God nonetheless. That is how the verse is. Now, if you say that the full stop is not there, لا يعلمها إلا الله, and it is وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ, لا يعلم تأويلها إلا الله وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ, no one knows its true interpretation, and those steeped in knowledge, then you put a full stop, then you say يَقُولُونَ آمَنَّا بِهِ, they say we believe in it, كُلٌّ مِّنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ, all of it is from God. Why would they say we believe in it? The only time you will say I believe in it is when you say I have no doubt in it. Otherwise they would say we know it is from God, we know what it is. What was the reason for God to bring that qualification in terms of the Rasikhuna fil ilm? Even in Arabic it doesn't sound or read accurately. Now I know, I grew up listening to Maulana saying, لا يعلم تأويلها إلا الله والراسخون في العلم. And that's it, I want to believe this, so I believe it. When we want to believe things, we will only listen to what we want to listen. We will not care to read the verse of the Quran. Now, Makarim Shirazi, Ayatollah Makarim Shirazi, in his Tafsir Amthal, brings this in. He says, Imam Ali says in Nahjul Balagha, the Rasikhuna fil, to the effect, that's what he says, and then he quotes the khutbah of Nahjul Balagha, the Rasikhuna fil ilm do not understand the ambiguous verses, but have full confidence and believe that they are from God. So this is Imam Ali saying it now, and Makarim Shirazi has quoted it. So then when we say, look, Tabatabai is saying the stop is here, and Makarim Shirazi is saying is this, then the audience says, now reputable people are saying it. But doesn't it just show the full-scale failure of the people for not using their rationality? Why should it have the title of an ayatullah or a mufassir saying something before we start believing in it? Shouldn't we have our own brains to think with? Does that make sense, by the way? Does it make sense? When the Quran came for the first time, there was no Allama Tabatabai, there was no Ayatullah Makarim Shirazi. What was there? It was the Blessed Prophet and the people. They were taking it first hand from the Prophet, weren't they? Now, If the rasikhuna fil ilm know everything, then the Quran itself says that they don't. Quran says nobody knows when the final hour will come, right? It's an ambiguous verse. Why didn't the Prophet say, I know this? The Quran is saying you don't know, Muhammad, you don't know. Finish. You don't know the interpretation of this verse. When it will come, how it will come, you don't know. The Prophet Muhammad is being told to say, I don't have any knowledge of what the higher realms were doing as they quarreled. Why is he saying I have no knowledge? Why doesn't he know the interpretation of that verse? Anybody who bothers to read the Quran and exercises their mind will know how far we have drifted from the truth, how far we have turned away. I'm not talking about the Shia, Sunni, Barelwi, Bandi, Akhbari, Usuli, Ismaili, Isnashiri, Bora. All of us have drifted. That God centricity has gone for once and for all has gone. The God centric message of the Quran is unrelenting. Read the Quran. It's relentlessly banging on the message of God centricity. It has gone fully. Now we come to wilāya takwīniyya. The authority, I'm going to develop this issue slowly, gradually, so bear with me. The authority to govern existence at will. Now I'll come to the quote fully afterwards. But Imam Khomeini, Ridwanullah alayhi, maintained that every atom of existence is surrendered to the Imam of the time. Every atom is obedient and he has authority and wilāya over every atom. Ayatollah Khomeini says they have full control over existence and their authority is just beneath the authority of God. Ayatollah Khomeini says words to the same effect and we will come to it, and of course our scholars have reported the same thing. Now tell me, you put in these 4 or 5 things, that the Imams and the Prophet and the Imams are infallible, they can make no mistake, they do not forget, they do not make any errors, they do not commit any sins, apparent or hidden or whatever, yes? They have fullness of knowledge, every aspect of knowledge, and they have full control upon creation and existence. Can you blame the minds of naive people for turning to them and calling them divine beings? Can you blame any mind to do that? Where is God gone then? What role is left for God? It's finished. God is gone. God is adamant, saying to Prophet Muhammad, look at the verses of the Quran. O Muhammad, had we not calmed your soul and grabbed your heart, لَقَدْ كِدْتَ تَرْكُنْ إِلَيْهِمْ شَيْئًا قَلِيلًا, you would have been inclined slightly to them, O Muhammad. And had you done that, read the Quran, we would have grabbed you and punished you. This is the way the Quran, of course, this is God, He can speak to anybody He wants, right? But this is God speaking to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and He is the crème de la crème. And Prophet Muhammad's humility is in this, that God speaks with him like this, and he humbles himself. Yeah? Read the Quran. Where have these notions come from? Now we look at the Quran. The Quran wants to dispel any notion of a prophet being godlike figure or a divine figure. Now in our du'as we have these du'as about Bibi Fatima, la jalal fawqa jalaliha illa jalal Allah. There is no splendor beyond her splendor save the splendor of Allah. Yes? Then we have in Hadith Qisa that had it not been for Fatima, abiha ba'aliha wa baniha, I would have not created sama'an mabniyan, wala ardan marahiyya, wala qamaran muniran, wala shamsan mudiya. And we love these verses. But the thing is, look at the sort of mindset it is creating. Then we have the dua, la farq baynaka wa baynahum illa annahum ibaduk. There is no difference between you and them, Allah, save that these are your creatures, and that's it. Otherwise, there is no distinction between you and them. Who has warranted such theologies? Who and where have they come from? So the Quran is adamant that it makes the prophets say. So, قَالَتْ لَهُمْ رُسُلُهُمْ, and I'm going to revisit this verse again and again in today's lecture. قَالَتْ لَهُمْ رُسُلُهُمْ, their apostles, messengers said to them, "In nahnu illa basharun mithlukum." We are mere mortals like you are. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَمُنُّ عَلَى مَنْ يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ. But Allah favors whoever He wants amongst His creatures. Yes, we are nothing special. And the reason why they're saying that, I will come to it in a little while. We are nothing special. Allah has just favored us to come and bring this tiding to you. Can you see this? Prophet Muhammad is being told to say, قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ يُوحَى إِلَيَّ أَنَّمَا إِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ. I am nothing but a mortal like you. It has been revealed unto me that your God is one God. And whoever wishes to meet with his God, then let him perform righteous deeds and not associate in the devotion of God anybody else. Then the Prophet Muhammad is told to say this, to dispel any notion that he has any supernatural abilities. قُلْ لَا أَمْلِكُ لِنَفْسِي نَفْعًا وَلَا ضَرًّا إِلَّا مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ. Say, I do not possess for my soul any benefit or any harm save whatever God wills. I do not have this potency that you guys are talking about. I can't do these things, and we will come to it again and again. But the people to whom this prophets went, they said, no, you are just ordinary people. If you do something great, then we will believe your prophets. Can you see? That was the tendency that we still have. To grandize these people. That no, can you see their miraculous abilities? They can perform miracles and tasks, and they can intervene in the existence and creation. That has always been the tendency in our minds. Something has happened in the history of humanity that has convoluted our thinkings so thoroughly that we are plagued with it and we are steeped inside it and we can't uproot ourselves. And every time we try to, it becomes a calamity because we keep on reverting to it. The modern world, even though it's abandoned superstition and heroes, we find heroes again in Hollywood and Bollywood, don't we? Superman and Spider-Man and Batman and God knows what types of superheroes we construct. It's something there. There is something there in our DNA. We just want to construct superheroes. Can you see that? Something has gone on somewhere that is plaguing us and the Quran is trying to remove it. It's saying don't be distracted. Turn to Allah, He is the only one. And direct yourselves to Him and finish it. You know, we all wear those strings and things, right? It's nice, in the remembrance of Imam Hussein and Hazrat Abbas. But the thing is, when we become reliant upon that thread for protection, that is where we are going wrong, right? Wear the ring because it's beautiful, wear it. Pray to Allah with the ring, adorn yourself, it's like wearing perfume. But when you become so beholden to the ring that you lose your confidence, then come on. This ring has become a god, hasn't it? I remember, the Panjitan's name, I always take it, but then I realized at one point that when I didn't take it, when I didn't take their names out, I felt, I'm at risk. It's something that happens to our minds when these things are drilled into them. In any case, the people said, look, if you are prophets, you have to do something extraordinary. You have to have extraordinary qualities. These are the verse. قَالُوا إِنْ أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُنَا. They said to the prophets, you are just human mortals like us. You are nothing special. تُرِدُونَ أَن تَسُدُّونَ عَمَّا كَانُوا يَعْبُدُ آبَاؤُنَا. You just want to prevent us from what our forefathers worshipped. And then they said, فَأْتُونَا بِسُلْطَانٍ مُبِينٍ. Bring some decisive, miraculous argument. The Prophet said, we are just mortals. In another place, and I'm just being very selective, وَقَالُوا مَا لِهَذَا الرَّسُولِ يَأْكُلُ الطَّعَامَ وَيَمْشِي فِي الْأَسْوَاقِ. What is with this messenger? He eats food and walks in the streets. He should be flying and not eating food, and what? Can you see? People were asking for superhuman qualities. We will not believe in the rationality of your message unless you display to us that you're a superhuman. And the poor prophets were saying, look, the whole idea is that you listen to the message and actualize your own human potential and forget about miraculous occurrences. They were shifting the paradigm constantly. لَوْلَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْهِ مَلَكٌ فَيَكُونُ مَعَهُ نَظِيرًا. Why hasn't an angel come with him? So if an angel comes, you will believe an irrational message? This is what the Quran is saying. If an angel comes with an irrational message, you will believe it? Think about it. If an angel came here right now and said, you have to from now on sleep on standing on your heads. I mean, would that make sense? It's an angel, he's saying it, fine. There is no rationality in sleeping on your heads unless I'm sure somebody will find some rationality, because that's how it's salawat. I'm not going to give any more examples. Then, the funniness is coming through me, but I'm going to resist the temptation. Then they said to the Prophet Muhammad, وَقَالُوا, they said, لَن نُؤْمِنَ لَكَ, we will not believe in you حَتَّى تَفْجُرَ لَنَا مِنَ الْأَرْضِ يَنْبُوعًا, unless you cause springs to spring forth from the earth. أَوْ تَكُونْ لَكَ جَنَّةً, or you have a beautiful garden مِنْ نَخِيلٍ وَعِنَبٍ, from nakhil and anab, grape and dates and so on and so forth. فَتُفَجِّرَ الْأَنْهَارِ خِلَالَهَا تَفْجِيرًا, and you cause a stream to flow in the middle of your beautiful Jannah and garden. أَوْ تُسْقِطَ السَّمَاءَ كَمَا زَعَمْتَ عَلَيْنَا كِسَفًا, or a portion of the sky falls, you cause a portion of the sky to fall upon us. أَوْ تَأْتِيَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ قَبِلًا, you bring God and the angels in front of us to see. أَوْ يَكُونْ لَكَ بَيْتٌ مِّن ضُخْرُفٍ, or you have an adorned house or house of gold. أَوْ تَرْقَ فِي السَّمَاءِ, or you fly within the sky. وَلَا نُؤْمِنَ لِرُقِيِّكَ, and even then we will not believe you're flying into the sky. حَتَّى تُنَزِّلَ عَلَيْنَا كِتَابًا نَقْرَؤُهُ, until you bring a book that we physically read. They said, if you do all of these things, we'll believe in you. The Prophet is saying, look man, I've just come with a message. 2 + 2 = 4. Does 2 + 2 = 4 by definition? If it does, accept it. If 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4, no matter how many books I bring from heaven, it's not going to equal 4 in your heads. That's what Prophet was saying. 2 + 2 = 4 is my message. Does it make sense to you or not? Now you're saying, no, 2 + 2 can't equal 4 until you bring an earth-shattering miracle. The Prophet is saying, Subhana Rabbi hal kuntu illa bashar, glory be to God, am I but a mere mortal? What are you asking me to do? I'm just bringing the message of God. I don't know. Deal with God. That's what the Prophet said at the end of the day. He said, deal with God. I said, yeah, I've had enough of you, and he left. Obviously, they chased him away. I'm trying to be funny. The Prophet was made to say, وَلَا أَقُولُ لَكُمْ عِنْدِي خَزَائِنُ اللَّهِ, I don't say that I have the treasures of God. I'm not making such claims. وَلَا أَعْلَمُ الْغَيْبِ, and I do not know the unseen. وَلَا أَقُولُ لَكُمْ إِنِّي مَلَكٌ, وَلَا أَقُولُ إِنِّي مَلَكٌ, and I do not say that I'm an angel. I'm not making any such claim. All I'm saying is 2 + 2 = 4. That's all I'm saying. Does it make sense or not? Anyway, it was a rational message, and that's what it was supposed to be. All these miraculous events have been added on. It is something that's plagued our heads. Now the Quran, in terms of the message, it says, قُلْ لَإِنِ اجْتَمَعَتِ الْإِنسُ وَالْجِنُّ عَلَىٰ أَن يَأْتُوا بِمِثْلِ هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ لَا يَأْتُونَ بِمِثْلِهِ وَلَوْ كَانَ بَعْضُهُمْ لِبَعْضٍ ظَهِيرًا. If man and jinn were together to bring one Quran like this, they would not be able to do so, even if some of them were to assist others. This is a message. Read it, reflect upon it. This is something grand for your mind. When a community of human beings, like a community of class, graduates, you no longer have to threaten them with witches and darkness. You no longer need to incentivize them with dreams. They should now understand that their reward is in their intellectual accomplishment. Federer's accomplishment was in arriving at the actuality of his ability to play the game of tennis. And secondarily, it was the Wimbledon Cup and the prize money. But the real achievement was in him attaining the fullness of his ability as a sportsman. That's what the Quran is saying. The fullness of your achievement is actualization of your minds and your soul. Their prophets were just saying, قَالُوا رُسُلُهُمْ أَفِي اللَّهِ شَكْ فَاطِرِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. How can you doubt God, the one who has created the heavens and the earth? That is the rational message. يَدْعُوكُمْ لَيَغْفِرَ لَكُمْ مِنْ ذُنُوبِكُمْ. He calls you to forgive you your sins. وَيُؤَخِّرُكُمْ إِلَى أَجَلٍ مُسَمًّى, and to delay your deaths to a particular time. That is it. Reflect upon it. You see, Before the Prophet came, the era of angels and supernatural heroes and all came to an end. But if we read the Quran, yes, there was an era. There was something previously. Superheroes and people like that did exist. There were visitations from the angels. And that's why Nuh said to his community, I am not telling you I am an angel. Because they said, well, surely an angel should have come. Because there were visitations from angels back in the day. Whatever angels may be. Or we have in Surah Kahf. I keep on forgetting the names of the prophets. Dhul Kifl, was it? Dhul Qarnayn, right? And read about his story. Dhul Qarnayn. We had those mythical sort of creatures the Quran does allude to. I don't say that there weren't, they were. But by the time the Quran came, it says, look, it's a purely rational message, no more incentives, no more threats. You are the reward, you are the punishments. Now, coming to this story of wilāya takwīniyya, the ability to control existence. So the Quran makes a distinction between wilāya takwīniyya and between miracles. Now, miracle is wilāya takwīniyya, that is in the hand of God. Wilāya takwīniyya means the authority to influence existence and to make it do whatever you want. Yeah? So a miracle by priority is wilāya takwīniyya. Now this is my personal take on it before we discuss it. The very fact that miracle can exist shows that nature can accommodate it, right? If it was not natural in some way, nature would not accommodate it. Given? Yes? So when Moses throws his staff and it becomes a serpent, it shows that nature can accommodate such an event, a feat of changing from staff into serpent, right? Now, if nature can accommodate it, it means it's logically possible. If it's logically possible, then there is nothing to say that the future human will not be able to attain it. So a miracle is something that is done well before its time. That's my understanding of a miracle, yes? That it is done well before its time. But the future human may arrive at that notion of manipulation of matter. However, the Quran makes a distinction. The Quran says miracles are in the hands of God. The prophets in the Quran are very clear. We cannot bring about any miracles. It is only in the hands of God. The ayat are in the hands of God in terms of miracles. So if we take miracles away, then wilāya takwīniyya means what? Authority given to other than God. Authority given to creatures through which they can control creation. To whatever extent they can control. So let's look at the distinction here in the Quran. قال عيسى ابن مريم اللهم ربنا أنزل علينا مائدة من السماء تكون لنا عيدا لأولنا وآخرنا وآية منك. So the Israelite asks, Isa, can your Lord cause a banquet to come from the heavens so that we may eat and our hearts obviously concede and find rest? So Isa prays, he says, Allahumma Rabbana, Allah, our Lord, cause to descend upon us a banquet from the sky, so that we may rejoice, and it may be a sign from you. So Isa is saying, look, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is an ayah that is in the hands of God. However, when it comes to other things that Isa does, he does not use the very same tone. He talks about it differently. إني أخلق لكم من الطين كهيئة الطير فأنفخ فيه فتكون طيرا بإذن الله وأبرئ الأكمه وأبرص وأحيي الموتى بإذن الله. I will create for you the form of a bird. I will blow into it and it will become a bird by the consent of God. I cure the blind and the leper and resurrect the dead by the consent of God. He is making a distinction here. One is an ayah in the hands of God, and the other one is in the hand of Isa himself. That he is able to do these things with the consent of God. Can you see that? Have you got that? So Isa has this wilāya through the consent of God. Now, I do not want to go into my own personal thoughts about the idhn of Allah, but Tabatabai has a discussion on it, and I read it over 10 years ago. But he says idhn of God is an existential reality that Isa had attained. And the idhn of God, others can also attain as well. Yeah? So that means he had wilāya. Wilāya takwīniyya, we are seeing it here. It's not a miracle that's exclusive in the hand of God. It is wilāya takwīniyya, his ability to manipulate matter. Sulaiman sits with his congregation. He says, who can bring me Bilqis's throne before they come to me surrendered? Qala ifritun min al-jinn. Ifrit from the jinn said, I will bring it for you before you finish your gathering. So Ifrit, who was a jinn, spoke with Sulaiman. So Sulaiman saw Ifrit and whatever, and Ifrit said, I have indeed been given this strength. Yes? So did Ifrit have wilāya takwīniyya? This is an interesting point. Or was it just the sheer strength of Ifrit and that his multidimensional existence, that he can just cross dimensions or warp space, go there and bring it back, in which case it sounds more like technology or something like that. Anyway, there was Asif Barkhi to that effect. He was there. He said, I will bring it to you before you blink, before the blinking of an eye. Yeah, and there it was. And he said, and the Quran says, وَقَالَ الَّذِي عِنْدَهُ عِلْمٌ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ, the one who had knowledge of the book. And the word book in the Quran is phenomenal. It seems to be the secret code of everything. He who had the knowledge of the book said, I will bring it to you in the blinking of an eye. And it was there. He said, this is from the grace of my God to see whether I am thankful or I am ungrateful. So now, this man has demonstrated wilāya takwīniyya. Ifrit is also demonstrating it, but this man definitely has demonstrated wilāya takwīniyya. Now if you read the Quran further, we made the air subservient to Sulaiman. And he could go a month's distance within moments. Now we know there were no magic carpets upon which Sulaiman sat. It would be very odd if Sulaiman sat on a carpet and the carpet was literally cold and whatever else. It's not nice. I mean, you're thinking, Sulaiman is a great king. I mean, he doesn't sit on carpets. So what does it mean? What does it mean? This is just mythical things, sitting on carpet. But the Quran is saying a month's travel within instances because we made air subservient to him. I'm going to throw in something here. I want you to think about it. In any case, it shows wilāya takwīniyya that Sulaiman had. But look at how broad the notion of wilāya takwīniyya is. Tell me, if we had a helicopter, yeah, and we gave it to Nabi Sulaiman, and Sulaiman went from, or we had a plane, and he went from England to France within an hour. That would take a month. Would it be true to say we made the air subservient for Sulaiman? And he crossed the distance of a month in moments. Would it be true to say that? Just think about things differently. Wilāya takwīniyya means the ability to exploit matter and to use it in a way we want it. These terms have not been dealt with properly. Now look at the Buraq and the Mi'raj. I mean, you find that a horse came and Jibreel hit the horse and the horse just flew, right? You know there is no such thing as a horse that flies that fast. But we know that. So we know these are descriptions that have been made for our consumption. Or Dajjal will come upon a donkey who with its 3 strides will cross the whole globe. Now we know there can't be a donkey that big. Yeah? We know that, right? So what will it be? What will it be? It will be some vehicle, some technology, right? It can't be anything other than that. So when the hadith said that when the Mahdi comes, you will be able to move yourself with thought, then that too is wilāya takwīniyya. But now we are in our scientific speculation so mature, we know that there is something like quantum portation, and we can have quantum entanglement, and we can shift from one place to another. This wilāya takwīniyya we are seeing actually, wait a minute, we ourselves are embarking upon it slowly and gradually. Are we getting it? We are embarking upon it slowly and gradually via technology or via a mind that is so supreme, that is able to control matter. Today, we are arriving upon these philosophies that the universe is not physical being as we see it. The bedrock of existence is consciousness. It is not matter. And in our in our quantum physics, we know that when we look at something, we determine it and specify it. If we don't look at it, it can be anything. So a pillar in a house is only a pillar in a house because we want to make it a pillar in a house. A staff is only staff because we are making it into a staff. I do not want to distract us from the central theme here. But if we can come to a level of maturity as humanity, that staff can become a serpent. The potential is there. So we are seeing that yes, there have been great people like Isa salamullah alayhi, and potentially other prophets and the blessed Imams who, through the accomplishment of their souls, are able to see things differently and to control them. But what does that mean? It means that nature can accommodate that, and it is well within the reach of humanity at large as well. Not to say that anybody can reach where they have reached. Not to say that anybody can reach where they have reached, but nonetheless the possibility is there. If we were to understand wilāya takwīniyya in this way, if we were to understand infallibility in the pious focus to God, if we were to understand ilmul ghayb in a way that the mind is no longer limited to physical sensuous knowledge, but it can be explored further, then it shows that ilmul ghayb, infallibility, wilāya takwīniyya, all of these facets of existence are there, they are real, they are true. They are there for one and all. But those minds were extremely accomplished. They had done it. But as soon as we do that, what happens? Divinity is removed from everybody. Can you see that? Are you getting that point? That as soon as we open it for one and all, the aspect of divinity that has been attributed to prophet and his family and the prophets before them is removed altogether. We'll say, no, these are the workings of nature, well within the grasp of the future human. When humanity comes to its fullness. Have you got that? So what do we conclude from here? That these ideas of infallibility, ilmul ghayb and wilāya takwīniyya, they might not be false at all. But the way we have framed them are false, is false. Because we have set them as special qualities. And then we have made those creatures who are genuine creatures of God, humble to God, into divine entities without calling them divine. And nowadays we do call them divine as well. And then we have to make distinction, divine as a creator, divine as created. Whereas God is saying there is nothing but the ray of the light of God upon one and all. What this does is, it removes that notion of shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then we become directed once again. Now, I'm going to read a bit of, I'm not going to finish it. So I'm not going to read any more of this then. The whole of this idea that they were created prior to creation, and they resided beneath the arsh, and they are the lights through which earth is sustained, and they are the connection between God and creatures. This whole idea that is there, we don't find in the Quran. And then we ask, on the back of this idea, we have these narrations and these ziyarat that we will talk about a little bit in the after 2 days, that the return of the creation is to you and their accountability lies with you. Here, totally divinity is given to the Prophet Muhammad and his family. And then, if they have wilāya takwīniyya and special knowledge of the unseen, and they are not veiled by anything, then we can legitimately ask them for our needs. And we can ask them for extension of life. And we can ask them for children. And we can ask them for sustenance, right? Now, I know everybody will say, well, we do not associate with God. But nonetheless, we are asking them everything that we are supposed to ask God. How thin the line becomes between God and creature at that point. How thin. If I have the wilāya of Imam Ali, he will protect me, I know that, in my grave and in the hereafter. I don't need to know God now. Isn't that something that we have? I mean, we have this notion that if there is no matam in, I'm not going into Masaib just yet. If we don't have matam in paradise, then I will not go into paradise. We have this, right? If there is no gham of Shabir in paradise, I will not go into Jannah. I will refuse to enter into Jannah. Imam Hussain is saying, this is a place where we have left our earth and I'm happy and I'm rejoicing. Why are you crying and beating your chest here? I'm just saying, think about these things. It's all nice as poetry, but people actually take it very, very seriously. And then to say that we have a hadith that to go to Karbala, every step is 1,000,000 reward of Hajj, and Umrah becomes an easy thing to believe. And before you know it, the whole God centricity aspect is removed. As I said, I can't finish the discussion today. Inshallah, we'll continue either tomorrow or day after tomorrow. We come to that phenomenal role model for humanity. If these trimmings were cut away from the prophets and the blessed Prophet and Imam Ali and his children, these beautiful prophets and imams would be appealing to humanity at large. But we have made them demigods and mythical. And people are warded away from them. But these people, these personalities are the creme de la creme of humanity. We take pride that our humanity can reach at that peak. And we can't imagine what a peak that was. It's the night of Ashura. Imam Hussain summons his family and his helpers. Flee, save your lives. Use the cloak of night to escape from the watch of the enemies. They said, "Oh Hussein, have you brought us here to tell us to leave? Do you doubt in our loyalty, O Hussein? Are we displeasing to you?" Hussein was tearful. He said, "No prophet or wasi has been blessed by companions, the likes of whom I have been blessed with." He said, "Know that each and every one of you shall be killed tomorrow. No one shall live." They smiled. They said, "Gladly, O Hussein." Imam Hassan's sons were there. One of the youngest sons was Qasim. He was baligh and mature, but very young. He said, "Uncle, will I have the honor of dying for you tomorrow?" Imam just looked at him. He said, "Qasim, because of his tender age, how do you understand that?" He said, "Uncle, sweeter than honey if it be for you." Imam embraced Qasim and he cried. Imam Hassan's sons were all martyred. A very young son of Imam Hassan was about 11. He was killed right at the end in the arms of Imam Hussain. When he went to defend Imam Hussain, an arrow pierced through him. But after the Shahada of the Hashimis, Qasim came to Imam Hussain. Imam Hussain looked at him and his eyes flooded with tears. And he turned away. Qasim said, "Oh uncle, Allow me to fight and defend you. After a lot of hesitation, Imam Hussein gave his consent. The scene was this, that Qasim saddled. And Hamid ibn Muslim is saying that the stirrup was broken. And I could see that Qasim's sandal was broken, was dangling. As he came inside the battlefield, it was as if the crescent of the new moon was appearing. The reason why he says this is that Imam Hussein had cut the turban of Qasim into two pieces, and it was a black turban. He placed one upon his shoulders, chest and back, one piece, and the other piece he tied around Qasim's head and pulled a side of it across his face and to the back of his neck. And therefore, Qasim's face was showing like a crescent. Qasim comes into the battlefield. Imam Hussein ascends upon a hill with Abbas, looking from afar. Qasim calls on to the people, "O godless people, I am the son of Hassan ibn Ali, who has come to defend the honor of my uncle Hussein. This is my uncle Hussein trapped amidst bloodthirsty swords. May God not quench your thirst on the day of thirst." A renowned warrior approached Qasim. Hussein's heart was filled with anguish. He is looking to the sky and maybe he is praying, "Oh Allah, give my child victory over this man." Qasim puts him to death. After several people are killed in single combat, they surround Qasim. Hamid ibn Muslim says, Umar ibn Sa'ad Azadi stood next to me. He said, "By God, I will put this child to death." Hamid ibn Muslim said, "I said to him, let him be. They will finish him off. By God, even if he strikes me down, I would not lift a finger against this child." Azadi went from behind, crept from behind Qasim and struck him upon his blessed head. Qasim, unable to contain himself upon the steed, descends upon the dust of Karbala. As he descended, he said, "Oh uncle, come to my aid." The Rawi says, Hussein, like an eagle, descends from the hill in pursuit of the killer of Qasim. But as they made their getaway, they trampled upon the body of Qasim. As they trampled upon the body of Qasim, he kept on calling out, "Oh uncle, oh uncle." Hamid ibn Muslim says, "I could not see anything through the dust that was raised through the galloping of the horses. All I could hear was the cries of Hussein. As the dust settled, I saw that Hussein has placed his face upon the chest of Qasim. Qasim is rubbing his heels, and Hussein is saying, 'Oh child, it is indeed unbearable for your old uncle that you call on to him and he comes not to your aid. And when he arrives, it is to no avail.' Qasim rubs his heel and loses his life." Hamid ibn Muslim says that Hussein carried the body of Qasim. His chest was in the arms of Hussein, and his feet were dragging against the dust of Karbala. He comes and places Qasim next to his brothers and next to Ali Akbar. And then he says, "Oh my children, oh my nephews, there will be no more tribulations upon you after this day. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون مات ابن حسين."